Kia ora, I'm Alexia Russell and welcome to the last episode of The Detail for 2024. We usually end with a self-indulgent look back over the year, talk about our wins, our favourite episodes, gloat about the things that went right, ignore the things that went wrong. This year's no different, so here we go.
Could this be our rare icing sugar wolf spider?
It's about the right size.
Looks like her spidey senses were dead on.
Every time it rained, it was just money on the roof.
I have feelings.
Yes. Express them.
Tupperware was just a whole new... We never seen anything like it before. In fact, thinking back, how did we stock our pantries?
But there are definitely some people who go in a bit half-cocked, cutting your toothbrush in half to save a few grams.
I wonder why we bothered ever teaming up with the men when they've actually been the roadblock to our success.
It doesn't matter which one you play, as long as you're having fun. The game's about having fun. If you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong.
Sorry, it's 8:30 in the morning here and I'm actually still in bed, so it might be a little bit chunky.
What happens if the public archivist works out that this document came from the tobacco industry?
Well, all hell breaks loose at that point, I would imagine.
I'm obsessed with lunch. From the moment I get to work in the morning, all I do is think about lunch and look at the clock to decide when I can eat it.
It's like potatoes. You just have it.
We changed things up a bit this year, moving from our usual co-host format to getting everyone involved doing everything. But one thing remained the same as it has for the last 6 years. Sharon Brett Kelly in the driver's seat. She's
I'm rolling my eyes here.
You can roll your eyes as much as you like to make room for golf. But Sharon, I feel you just spend those days off thinking up more ideas for the detail.
Can't help myself.
What were your highlights this year?
Well, I went through the list, and when you go through the long list, and I'm looking at everyone's podcasts, it's really impressive, I think, what the Detail has done this year. That's my pat on the back for us all. And then I went through the ones that I guess I had the most fun doing, and it shows how shallow I am, because the ones I had the most fun doing, Married at First Sight, that was a lot of fun. Why do we watch something that fascinates us and disgusts us, that makes us cringe and go all gooey all in 1 hour? The Shortland Street.
But you got Kim Hill and that was...
Well, I was about to say that. Yeah, my idol, one of my idols, Kim Hill, talked about why she loves Shortland Street. Do you think about what it means for New Zealand and for society?
No. It's a soap opera.
I know. And Taylor Swift. But also I think a lot of my favourites were ones where I went out and about, like when I went to a music festival and we got inside a drug checking tent and really got close up to what was going on there. I've been told not to photograph or speak to any of the clients who are here to have their drugs tested. But I guess that my big one this year has been my trip to Samoa. It was an amazing experience getting the story about the Manawanui and trying to get it from different angles. And I won't go into all the details, but it basically involved, the High Commissioner talking to Defence.
There was an incredibly touching moment where I met the kayaker that put to sea in the middle of the night on his own and went out and returned with one of our crew members that was injured with a dislocated shoulder. And I, put my arm around him and thanked him.
Because he saved a life.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the courage to do that. And
really, it was a story that I wouldn't have been able to do sitting here in the office in Auckland. Had to be over there in Samoa, because it's the people that you come across, the real people that you come across. Not far down the coast, in the village of Satawa, is one of the heroes of the Manawanui rescue, Louis Nifo. And his words here are translated by his wife, Tolopene Louis.
It's that time that so heavy rain, and so my husband come and tell me he want to go there. There's no light that he can use. So he go far away, and then maybe hour and a half. That was incredible to find the first person
on the scene, and him Louis, his name is, and describing how he came across him, how he paddled through in the middle of the night through very stormy seas, but because he's a fisherman, because he goes out there every day, he knows that sea so well, he knows that reef so well, and he was able to locate them and then tell the other rescuers about where these people were, pluck the woman out of the water onto his kayak with her injury and take her back to shore. Quite incredible. And on shore, his wife and family were very anxiously waiting for him, not knowing whether he was going to come back or not.
Because he was out for what? He said an hour and a half?
Yeah, a long time paddling out. I mean, the thought of it, just in a simple kayak.
Yeah, in the dark. Yeah, and stormy seas.
And very, just so humble about it. And I guess it was a real juxtaposition because this was one side of the coast where all of this was going on, where this very dramatic sinking of the ship and then the dramatic rescue was going on. And over the other side, of course, all the big leaders of the Commonwealth were coming together in the fancy hotels, and there was security everywhere. There were security dogs everywhere. It was two separate scenes on one small island in the Pacific.
And I think we also need to give a shout out to RNZ journalists who helped you along the way.
Susanna Leatawa. I mean, I couldn't have got some of those interviews without Susanna because, of course, she is well connected to Samoa, her family there, and some of the people that we were introduced to thanks to her.
I'll tell you what I love from you, though, is sometimes the most unexpected things came out of your little tours, like the one around your family farm where you went out for a bug walk at night.
Are those wings? What are they called?
No, just legs.
That's the scientific name for them.
I'm at one with the nature.
Legas.
I sort of felt like you had brought people along with you every step of the way as you discovered these nocturnal insects.
Oh, did you enjoy that? Oh, it was great fun. Couldn't you tell? We laughed every 5 minutes. Yeah, no, I love doing that. And hopefully next year we can do more of that, getting out and about and talking to real people in their place, because that's when they are the most natural. That's when the unexpected happens, and that is when they'll tell you stories that they may not necessarily tell you when they have to come into a studio or be on the phone. That's my feeling.
Our new producer this year, Gwen McClure, used to work for the United Nations in New York, so dissecting the social media accounts of tradwives was something a bit different for her. But Gwen, you also got to talk to a man he's kind of a living legend in New Zealand, but he's never really in the news these days, Don McKinnon.
The meeting that followed was called Burnham 1. Sir Don took a cue from former U.S. Secretary of State Warren Christopher on how to get warring parties together.
And he said, well, I decided the one way to get through this, I'm going to put all these people on an Air Force base in Ohio, and I'm going to lock the gates. I'm going to give them all the booze they want, and they got to stay there until they reach a solution. And I thought, now that's a pretty good idea.
Yeah, I think you were even more excited about that interview than I was. But he was great. He was so interesting to talk to. That was about Papua New Guinea and what's going on there with Bougainville's referendum.
I didn't realise that New Zealand had such a huge part to play in that.
Well, and I didn't either, but obviously I didn't grow up here. I wasn't there when that was going on. So it was really interesting for me to learn about that history and learn about what's going on now.
What were your other highlights of the year?
It's a bit cheesy, but I always just really enjoy talking to people who have done interesting things. So I think talking to the women who'd left Gloria Vale, that was right at the beginning of the year, I just found them so impressive. They knew nothing about life outside of Gloria Vale, and yet somehow they figured it out to leave and get their families out of there. I also talked to Paula Penfold a few weeks ago about a story she'd done about North Shore Hospital and patients who'd been examined without their consent. Imagine you're at one of the country's biggest hospitals for a gynecological operation. While you're under general anesthesia, so unconscious, you're also being used as a training opportunity. Enjoyed is not the right word for that.
They didn't really have a choice, actually, and the whole point of this is that they should.
And that scared me a bit because I was in North Shore Hospital and that time for an operation. So it really does put the shivers down your spine. Just reminded me, Sharon, of the National Women's
I was going to say, it brings back memories of the National Women's scandal.
And if you're wondering why Gwen is whispering and not taking really much part in this podcast, she lost her voice a couple of days ago and it's only just coming back.
I'll sit here quietly for the rest and listen.
Straight out of broadcasting school, our other new person was Davina Zimmer, thrown into the deep end pretty much straight away. Davina, tell us about your favourite moments.
Yes, well, I was doing a little bit of prep and struggling to kind of think, like, what's your favourite moments? Like Sharon, I was going through lists of stories, and then that's when it kind of struck me as like looking back on the sheer amount of stories that I've managed to be able to do this year is quite, I guess I would say, proud, because coming into this, you're never quite sure. You're coming in as an intern at the start of the year, and I think it's been really amazing, the different opportunities that I've gotten to experience this year. The first story I ever did was on Rare Disorder Month, which is a topic, that's quite close to my heart, and that was a really exciting one to do, especially because you and I, Alexia, we drove up to Warkworth to meet this mother with a son with Angelman syndrome.
It's been quite an intense journey, and obviously it's the story of my life.
And then talking to these different people and then just learning the process for the first time of, getting an idea and turning it into a podcast was really, really exciting. And yeah, I'm a long-time listener of The Detail, and so it's just quite exciting. That was kind of my first taste of seeing behind the scenes of actually how it's all done.
Was that a bit of a baptism of fire for you, Davina? Because the woman that we talked to had so much information, and I thought, how is she going to distill this into a 22-minute podcast?
And I have to say that's something I'm still working on is, you get these interviews with these incredible people who have so much information, and you go down these little rabbit holes and you end up with like 2 40-minute interviews, and you have to kind of pick it apart and almost like externalize yourself and just come at it from a third person perspective and think, okay, right, what is just interesting and what is actually essential to telling the story? Because there's so much that gets left on the cutting room floor that, would be really interesting for people to know, but we only have 24 minutes. I think we can stretch it slightly to 27 on a weekend, but it has to be very worth it.
Well, hello. Do tell Sharon that.
But,
it's a trade secret, Davina.
Yeah, who's the favourite in this group?
No, but it's it's tricky, and I think with the rise of podcasting, there's so many podcasts out there, and a lot of them, not to discredit them at all, are your traditional 2 people sitting in front of a mic and it's just kind of raw chat and then it's posted. And I think a lot of people, when I tell them that I work for a podcast, they have that impression of it and they think that it's easy. You have a yarn and then you push publish. But there's so much complexity behind the scenes, and the fact that, we have to do 6 of them a week is all the background research and then, all the cutting down of interviews.
Amanda, you've just joined us for the tail end of the year. Did you find that was something a bit different?
I did. And I've come from a place from where we had 2 minutes to explain everything. So we got, at best someone got a 10-second grab or a 15-second grab if we were feeling particularly generous, obviously, with television news for 6 p.m. So this has been a treat. But to get someone to hold for 20 minutes, 22 minutes, or if your Davina is our favourite, 27 at the weekend, it's incredible. And to get the right person who knows everything that you want to ask them and who can delve deeper and who can explain it to you and not give you the ABCs but the X, Ys and Zs as well. It's not easy, but I think The Detail does an incredible job of it. And I have been a long-time listener and I am a first-time podcast caller. And did I think at the beginning of 2024 I'd be playing with the cool kids on The Detail and being a part of it? No, but am I pleased I'm here? Hell yes. This has been a treat and I love it.
In spite of the fact that we don't actually have a company car
too soon, Alexia, to bring this up. I'm still triggered.
We sent Amanda to Thames and she asked where the company car would be parked.
I only just got a company phone this year.
You could almost hear the gasp in Alexia before she just roared with laughter, and I was like, okay, back it up, TV princess. This is a different playing ground. But boy, that was fun. And this is the cool thing. 1 minute at the Detail, you're talking to, John Jordan, a Republican strategist, about what's happening with the election.
Oh, it's absolutely a fact. She's not bright. She failed the California bar exam the first time. I didn't. I passed it the first time.
And in the next minute, you're driving down to Paeroa to interview the head coach or the coach of the Swamp Foxes.
Oh, I have to have everything from the same pen to the same book. I have to sit in the same seat on the bus. I have to get off the bus last. I don't know why that is, but silly things.
And then you're talking to Tim Balm about Brokenwood.
Perhaps that's why over the years it's become this kind of hybrid thing, because I didn't know what I was doing.
And then you're talking to someone about suicide. The diversity and the range of stories on this and delving deep, it's incredible. You never know what you're going to get, but you always know it's going to be good.
What's your favourite this year that you've done?
Probably on a personal level, too. I loved the Tim Balm one because I think he is a good Kiwi man, and what they've done with Brokenwood has been incredible. In an industry that I know and I'm a part of that's dying, being television, for them to be such a huge success, and he's still so cool and down to earth. And the other one was Suicide in Gisborne. Gisborne being my hometown, and an amazing life-saving charity that was closed down due to a lack of funding, and they haven't lost one person to suicide while they've been operating.
Can I just put in, you might cut this out, but can I just
I have the power.
You have the power. Make mention of two podcasts that went to air, and it's sort of related to you, Amanda, because it's about a momentous and devastating thing that happened with the demise of News Hub, and that is that my husband, whose name is Adam Hollingworth, produced a 2-part podcast for The Detail.
Good evening.
Good evening. Kia ora, good evening.
Good evening.
Kia ora, good evening. I've always wanted to say that. And today on The Detail is the end of the news as we know it.
Which gave an excellent insight, I think, into the history of News Hub, or TV3 News, and all the characters and what was so important about it and what a huge loss it's been. It was really good, that 2-parter, and a really important story, and I think The Detail was lucky to get it.
We actually watched it at Sharon Brett Kelly's house. Adam invited us all round, the reporters, and it was a really emotional moment because we were so proud of Adam, because the job he did was sensational, but it also reminded us of what we were losing. So we were sitting in Sharon's lounge, a whole lot of reporters with tears in their eyes. Yeah, and so for us it was a really beautiful, poignant moment, and we were so rapt that RNZ The Detail Newsroom were running it because it was an important story to tell.
And it was actually part of a bigger picture this year too, and I think we've just about all have done stories this year about losing various aspects of the media. Even Mark Jennings, his only podcast for the Detail was about that. I've just done one about losing our regional papers, which is just so sad. And the same points kept coming back over and over again. When we lose media, we lose voices, we lose a little bit of democracy, as you go elsewhere for your news, places like Facebook and social media. And I hope that next year we don't have to concentrate as much on this particular story. But, I hope we're down to the bare bones now, but...
It makes it bittersweet. I'm not sure if this is the right time to bring it up as well, but it kind of makes it bittersweet. You find out that we're getting obviously refunded next year, and you want to scream it from the rooftops because you're like, yay, we're here next year. We're still around for another 365 days. But at the same time, of all these incredibly talented people who have missed out or they're going overseas, and it's something that I wonder is going to have like a delayed reaction of people going to realise maybe in a few years from now, oh wait, where's all our news gone?
It's like a drinking hole in the Serengeti that everyone comes to one point to get their water on a Tuesday or a Thursday when they used to be delivered. It'll be harder. Democracy at that very basic level will be harder to get your message across. It's mirrored a bit by some of the bigger media firms nationally falling over.
There was also some delight in the inbox. Lots of suggestions for subjects people felt needed the detailed treatment. We love those. And a few that made us realise how lucky we are to be doing this work. Like when I talked to Newsroom's Mark Dalder, one of our regular newsroom correspondents, about long COVID.
People talk about COVID fatigue, and when they say COVID fatigue, they don't mean long COVID fatigue, right? They mean, I'm so sick of hearing about COVID because we had these long lockdowns and it was really burdensome. And it was. But to some extent, we've swung too far on the pendulum. And now we find ourselves unable to even acknowledge that things like long COVID happen, that COVID is still, a virus. 1,000 people died from COVID last year.
Yes, sure, I did get a few "it's the vaccine stupid" messages, but there were also emails like this. Thank you for writing this article. I am suffering from long COVID at the moment, and there are days when I think I am losing my mind. Your article reiterated that what I'm suffering is real, so thank you.
I've probably had more complaints about my podcast this year than any other year. And some of
the weird ones.
Some of them, like, shall we say, the Featherston.
Should we mention Featherston?
Once upon a time, there was a dreary little North Island town just over the hill from Wellington that you could drive through on your way to far more interesting places. Featherston,
you are brave ladies. Goodness me, I'm under the table.
You can already hear the complaints rolling in.
Oh my goodness! But really, it was such a positive story. But we're not there to do a puff piece or an ad. We're telling a story about a town, like any town or city or community, that has, had its ups and downs, and now but the outcome is incredibly positive. But I don't know, for whatever reason, we upset some people, and we'll leave it at that. I think.
Well, I will definitely yes. A lot of people don't realise that we don't just record these 22 minutes and put it out there. It involves, a lot of organisation and setting up. It involves a lot of research, the actual recording, whether we have it in RNZ studios with the help of our amazing operators, who we haven't mentioned yet, but we have amazing RNZ operators, both in Auckland, Wellington and now in Christchurch, doing this for us.
Also, I think it's really worth pointing out that the operators are so important to us because they give it that real polish. Where that is almost a luxury these days, isn't it? To have that level of skill to, sorts out the wind from the microphone, a bad line from...
Yeah. You hand something over and you say, this recording's really ropey, can you fix it?
Yeah, exactly.
And then it's fixed.
Yeah. One little shout out that I'd love to do is to our listeners who write in with ideas, and one of the most recent one was the Mental Health Act. So I love that people are so invested that they'll go, hey, I want to learn about this, can you please, teach me about it? And that's been a treat. Yeah.
Keep it coming.
Yeah.
We also have a bunch of people above our pay level who cast their eyes over the contentious ones, mostly from Sharon. The ones that push the boundaries and the ones that we know that people are going to have a bad reaction to. So thanks to people like Tim Watcombe, Megan Whelan, Mark Jennings, Tim Murphy, people who legal our Robert Stewart, who does the legalling. That's also an important layer of what we do.
And to all of our friends of the detail. We got mugs this year now to officially make them friends.
That's it for this year. We'll be back at the end of January. The Detail is a newsroom production supported by RNZ and NZ On Air, something for which we are very grateful. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and we're pleased to say that we will see you again in 2025. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you, Ben.